Okay. So I was trying to record like a vlog like a few days ago, but didn't quite get around to it. But it's day 65, so no relapses at all. Have had a few weak points, so to speak, where I kind of started drifting back towards um, that habit I'm trying to break or remove. But nothing really occurred. I think it's I've kind of gone far enough along with this that um, sort of my thought process kind of kick in, and I'm like, okay, we're not going on that direction, and also sort of started incorporating things like cold showers, and essentially trying to fill up my free time, with various other activities like a lot of reading. I'm working my way through God Emperor of Dune, and once I get that done, then it'll be the next book, and hopefully I can finish up this series pretty soon because I'm getting ready for the 2020 adaptation that's coming out in December. I'd like to have the whole series read or reread in time. Other than that, what else? I've been keeping myself relatively strictly speaking to this low carb or slow carb diet, losing some weight. I guess it kind of ballooned up to about 200 like a couple months ago or so, and kind of got to a point where it's like, okay, I got to turn this around because I was literally, according to the BMI calculation, I was overweight. I was heading in the wrong direction, and I wanted to get back into a healthy weight, and then um, aim for one of my sort of been sort of one of my big goals in life to get to that sort of ideal weight or ideal physique, and making progress towards that. I'm back within a healthy range, and I'm actually like losing some more weight. I just measured myself this morning, and I think I lost about like between a half a pound and another pound. Um, Excuse me, and I think I've lost a total of, let me see, about 13 pounds so far. In the last like 2 or 3 weeks. I was needing to incorporate some exercise into the routine, so I can kind of step that up. Which I haven't. I just barely been going based on diet. Other than that, what else? Focusing on work, making that money, um, taking care of bills, that sort of deal. Trying to get enough rest, especially when I'm on my weekends. Taking care of chores around the house, that sort of deal. But one other thing I did, can't really get up. I'm in my skivvies right now, but I got a book on mountaineering. I was kind of looking for sort of a central guide to the whole thing because it's been something I've been wanting to get into eventually and kind of figuring out how to go about that. Not sure how far I'll go with it, but it's been like that and snowboarding, and then of course I want to get way back into fencing, but maybe it's some of my spiritual inspiration coming from folks like Aleister Crowley and such, that mountaineering is sort of something I want to get into, and also I know there's a lot of astronauts who've gone and done that, and they're kind of a source of inspiration for me. Um, I think it's also just the whole like exploring the limits and going where few, if any, folks have gone before, and sort of having a sort of experience of life. Um, Maybe it's sort of it's you could tie it into like into the whole NOFAP deal in the sense that the more you do NOFAP, the more you kind of expand in your sort of understanding of its relation to general society. It's like not a lot of guys do this. Not a lot of guys will put aside the PMO for any period of time, or they're just kind of like sitting there in a sort of state of lust and desire and frustration. Whether it's with relation to the topic of sex, or it's in relation to the topic of women, or it's um, just their general way of being in life. They're not willing to go and like do that for one reason or another. Or if they do that, or if they do anything to improve themselves, it's all just sort of like how is it going to help me get the girls. Um, and I say this as someone who's been there. I mean, this is kind of why I think in the state of mind right now where I don't really care so much, because I've seen what caring about that kind of stuff does. It might motivate you, but at the end you're like, you're attaching the value of all your strivings and your struggles and your aims and your goals, your successes, your failures. You're tagging that onto or lashing that onto someone else's approval. And, you know, Red Pill obviously would tell us that we shouldn't do that, in large part because things like hypergamy and such, where, you know, like you may be this great guy, you may be doing these great things, but whether or not it serves the other person's, you know, interests or needs or whatever at the time will determine whether or not they consider it valuable. And, you know, it could be, I mean, you could look at folks like Elon Musk and others who are doing a lot of great work for, you know, the cause of humanity. But, you know, like, who understands this being, you know, great work for the cause of humanity? Is it the women they're pursuing or going out with, or, you know, are in relationships with, or is it, you know, folks like myself or others, you know, who are like fans of these guys? And obviously, if you build your life around that kind of stuff, like, there's just so many things that can go to waste, you know. I was kind of speaking of sort of, you know, contrived platitudes, which is something I've had an issue with other folks doing, you know, not really having sort of a defined sort of goal or defined message or, you know, whatever that they're giving or working towards. But, you know, other than that, waxing philosophical, some of the stuff that's happened recently that's kind of made me sort of, I think, caused me to sort of think about this stuff, is just stuff with my family. You know, I live a significant distance away from them, and I'm actually pretty glad with that. The distance kind of gives me the ability to have a lot of peace and quiet and time to think, time to process stuff, and to work on myself, which is, you know, the biggest thing that's happened over the last like 4 to 5 years is really working on myself and improving myself, and working through any sort of blockages or issues I've had, or different aspects of myself to kind of make myself a better version of myself. You know, and as you can see, it's been like I've been really like focusing on me. It's kind of become sort of a thing wherein things are all about myself now, and it's kind of been something that, you know, I didn't really do in my 20s. It was all about how can I serve somebody else, or fulfill their needs, or make sure that their life was, you know, the most quality kind of life that they could have. And, you know, whether it's my sister or my mother. And, you know, some cases, obviously, it was stuff that you just kind of had to do, or I would have to do because they had medical emergencies, and, you know, things happened to them that, you know, was not on them necessarily, or, you know, just bad stuff happened. And if you're a member of a family, you kind of have to do certain things in order to fulfill, you know, your role. And it's sort of the, you know, sort of struggle of survival or existence for humans, that sort of thing. You band together and you do what you gotta do. But of course, you know, there were decisions that they made when it came to things like alcohol and smoking and, you know, other stuff that caused things to get even worse for them. And, you know, what I've seen over the last 4 to 5 years is I, you know, moved up here, completed my degree, all that. They kind of essentially just stayed the same. And it's almost like they just expected things to just kind of go on. And let me see. First off, my dad lost a job. He was without a job for about a year and a half. Now he's got a new job. But, you know, it's kind of like, you know, SHTF happened essentially. And I think in a lot of ways it kind of revealed that their way of doing things was really not the best. But, you know, they've kept on kind of doing that. And recently, I was just kind of stuff came to a head yet again. And let me see. My sister engaged once again in her sort of attention-seeking behavior, threatening to kill herself, and she had a series of fights with my mom, and some of the stuff she was fighting with my mom about, like, I see why she would, because my mom will have, like, issues with her mom, and then that'll lead her to turn to alcohol to deal with the bad emotions, and then, of course, it'll cause collateral damage to the rest of us. But it was that, and then, like, my uncle's ex-wife started like contacting my sister, as did her daughter contacting my sister, and like basically threatening her and like causing all this drama and whatnot. And essentially got to the point where my sister was engaging in self-harm yet again, and she called the cops at the house, and like a 5150 got taken out of the house on her own cognizance. And it was this whole sort of deal where that it's part of this huge buildup of stuff that's happened in the last few months, and I'm trying to sum it all up. But essentially it's like my parents are having to deal with the stuff that I had to deal with for my sister for like 7 to 10 years, and I was kind of like the shield or the buffer between her and them. And it's really gotten to the point where it's like something's got to give. And my sister's had all the other sorts of health problems. I mean, it would take me an entire video just to discuss every single one of them if I was going to. The same thing with my mother, but I think one of the biggest problems has been like how they've coped with stuff going wrong. And that's kind of, it's sort of like, okay, things are already bad enough now. Why'd you have to go do this stuff over here, which then made it, 10 times worse or 100 times worse, And, I see how everything down there is sort of centered on what's good for them and their feelings and that sort of deal. And, even if it's not really good for them, it's good for their feelings. That stuff will get done, which doesn't solve the damn problem. And I've been, I guess, on and off trying to sort of, in some sort of sense, feed my dad some red pill material and like kind of coach him on how to do things a little bit differently, and encouraging stuff like healthy living. Because one of my big things I've harped on with both my mom and my sister is like the lack of exercise, their reliance on things like alcohol and nicotine to deal with bad emotions. What else? Lack of healthy eating habits, that sort of deal. Hygiene, just basically what I guess. I mean, I heard this term from entrepreneurs in cars first off, but it was basically like self-care, just basic self-care. And if you just do that, like, it eliminates a lot of other problems, or it mitigates ones that already exist. And I've been trying to encourage that, even stuff like meditation or so, whatever you want to call it, meditation or prayer or whatever, But, I'm trying to push from that angle, and I guess because my mom tends to listen to me more, my dad's want to have me go and like sort of intervene and talk to my mom and talk some sense into her, because one of the problems with my mother is that she, and this is like, red pill 101, solipsism, that she can't comprehend what my sister is going through, because she's like, oh, when I was, age X, I was told, you graduated from college now, you got 4 months to get out of here, or whatever the heck, and it's kind of like, Mom, she's not living your life, okay? She's had, she's had all these dizzy spells, she's fallen so many times, she, apparently has been suffering some minor strokes. I'm talking about my sister. She's had, broken ankles because she fell so hard. Probably like cardiac problems. She has to get some reconstructive surgery for her mouth, et cetera, et cetera. It's like she's in no shape to be just getting up and walking out of here. I'm sure she would love to. When you get to that age, whether it's your mid-20s or early 20s or your late 20s or your 30s, you want to get the heck out of the house and move on with your life, whatever form that may take, but she can't, and at the same time, telling my dad that, like, if you want mom to back off and, give Kohler space, and there has to be certain progress being made, even like baby steps, like keeping a clean room, doing your own laundry, doing some basic chores, taking care of your personal hygiene, stuff that like functional adults do, and that stuff is left to fall by the wayside. Whereas, I was the one kind of facing all sort of the brunt of criticism and standards and having to take on all sorts of responsibilities for years, and it's like now I'm not there, now I can't do that sort of stuff. In part because it's not good for me, but also because it's not good for them to have, that sort of routine where somebody's always doing something for them, as opposed to them doing stuff for themselves. But, later today I might call my mom and just kind of like, I'm going to note stuff down in the car so I can stay on track and just do that, because that's the most that I can do, and that's the best that I will do or can do or whatever. besides the fact that like I'm living on my own as an adult, and I've got to take care of my own responsibilities. I can't be doing all this sort of stuff because then I become a burden on folks. Excuse me. And when I'm not doing my part, and living as a functional adult, Um, but yeah, grabbing a little red pill stuff here and there for my dad to kind of chew on and digest. I mean, a lot of stuff he kind of already knows, ironically enough. I consider him more purple pilled than anything. Though he has a lot of his sort of blue pill moments, and I had to sort of remind him of a few things that he'd forgotten from years ago when he was heavily blue pilled. And back when I was as well. Stuff that basically he did in the sense that because he thought that, sort of instead of death of a salesman, that people would actually appreciate his sacrifice, if you will. And I got really mad at him about that because it was sort of stuff where he was just thinking 150% about them and not about, how it would affect me or, the fact that it wouldn't do anything. And I may get into that in another video, but it kind of reminds me of Earl Tomasi's his brother-in-law, essentially, as well as my own uncle. But yeah, so I got kind of an outsider's perspective on things at this point, and kind of giving my take on stuff. And if I were to sum it all up, I would kind of wish that they would sort of take a page out of my book, because the way I dealt with things when stuff was going bad back then was I would go running. And I would run 3, 4, 5 miles a day. Even if it was the middle of the night, I'd go out running. And, luckily we lived in an area where there wasn't a lot of crime, so I could go do that without getting mugged or, killed or whatever. But I would do that, or I would go running in the day, or I would do a bunch of push-ups, or I even got into, like, prayer or meditation, whatever you want to call it. I did stuff like that, or I would read, or I would even something basic as watching something funny on YouTube, or I would work on something, some sort of project, something creative that would allow me to channel all that negative energy into something productive, And it's like they don't want to do that; they just want to engage in self-destruction repeatedly, and it's just like I see all this stuff through a red pill lens. I see sort of I could break out Rollo Tomasi's kind of bugging up right now. I could break out volume 2 of the Rational Male, Rollo Tomasi's, preventative medicine. I could open up the book to that page where he has that SMV graph, and I could just see where they're each at, and then I can go to the different sections where he talks about, oh, well, this is the phase that, a woman will be in when she's this age, and that sort of thing. It's almost like, it just maps to it so well, and I could just tell where they're at, and I could see what's going on, and it's uncanny, but it's also frustrating when the only other guy in the situation, aka my dad, just seems to not either see it, or he has that sort of self-sacrificial mentality of, well, nothing I can do, I just gotta be the what do you want to call it, the whipping boy, or the scapegoat, or the practice target, or whatever you want to call it, the thing that everyone takes their garbage out on, as opposed to putting his foot down and setting a decent example and saying, no more of this, we're not doing this crap anymore, we're not engaging in these things any longer, ultimately I gotta take care of myself. I gotta focus on my own journey, working my way through these issues or blockages or whatever, and making more progress in life, because I'm mostly focused on my finances and my health right now, getting into better shape, paying off bills, getting myself financially free. I have also been watching a lot of Dave Ramsey material, and will eventually get his book and some other books on those subjects, because there's one thing I want to do in this life. I don't want to repeat what the last generation has done, which, financially speaking, was getting into a whole heck of a lot of debt, on the one hand, and also just like, the whole marriage and relationship stuff, getting with a woman, in this case my dad, getting it with my mom, who's point blank like BPD with some NPD traits, and all the financial and emotional, physical turmoil that's been caused by that. You know, I mean, unless I became a multimillionaire, I don't think there's really any way of paying off all of their debts that have been incurred by both my mother and sister engaging in self-destructive habits characteristic of a BPD, aka my mom, or NPD, aka my sister. Um, so I'm trying to live a better life than that, and that's going to mean a lot of going it alone and a lot of work. So, anywho, folks, it's been a almost 21-minute video. Had a lot to unpack. Day 65, no relapses. Had some weak points, as I'll call them. Didn't look at anything, but I would just sort of increase my list of stuff I have to clear out of my sort of sphere of sorts, and keeping an eye on the things that I let go into my ear, into my eye, what I see or what I hear, that sort of deal. Because eventually that leads to the kinds of thoughts, that leads to actions, which leads to habits and results and all that I do not want. So, sort of filtering for stuff, staying off certain subreddits, um, staying away from certain YouTube content, etc. But anyways, day 65, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys around. Bye.